Hey YouTube, back again with another video. So I'm just going to show you the progress on the wall since the last video. I've made a bit of progress in the last 2 days. So we've got this horse in the foreground here painted in, and we've got some really nice tones going on. We got like the reflective surfaces, got like some of the decorations, like, you know, like some of the tassels hanging off the saddle. Still got to finish off the armor, like that sort of belt or the sash or whatever going over his shoulder. Still got to paint that one in, but everything is kind of looking better. Like the colors are looking a lot more richer. The figures in the foreground are beginning to kind of protrude from the wall. And you know, from this distance it actually looks quite detailed, and there is a fair bit of detail going on. But if we just kind of zoom in, let's just say if we walk up to the horse, you will see it's actually just very broad brush strokes, and there's not much in the way of anatomical detail. You know, there's some implications of anatomy in those forms. Same with the drapery. You know, like when you step away, it looks like the drapery is kind of folding because you got those shadow shapes in there. But again, when you zoom in, when you walk up close, it's actually quite abstract brushstrokes. So what I'm doing with this painting is I'm kind of implying the forms. I'm not really actually painting them, if that makes sense. I'm not spending hours just rendering it. I'm really just trying to mix the color I need, mix the value that I need, and then you know, with a single brush stroke, I'm just kind of placing in exactly where that color needs to go. So I'll give you a quick example, all right? So, you know, you can see this reflective surface that I've painted here on the horse, this sort of medallion that they had on the harness. I'm in the middle of painting it on this horse too. So let's use that as an example. So all I do, I'm using a bit of a smaller paintbrush today. I'm just going to go, I see I've already mixed up all these tubs of color. Those are the paints that I'm using. They've got a bit of vibrancy to them, but they're not the most vibrant. They're actually quite dulled down. But those muted colors actually look quite vibrant when you place them next to each other. But anyway, I'll just clean my brush. So this is the color that I'm using for this particular piece, and then all I'm doing is I'm literally just, see, I've got like a bit of a darker tone which I've already painted in where I want my dark areas to be. That's subject to change, you know, I might decide to change that. That's the great thing about acrylic paint, so you can actually just paint right over it. The annoying part about acrylics is you have to keep remixing them because they dry quite quick, but this painting style that I'm using is a rather quick style anyway. Right, I kind of have to work it in because the paint's kind of drying on the brush already. So what this is, this gray, this is obviously, I'm going to use this as my kind of silver tone. It's the exact same that I used on there. But what I'm doing, this shape obviously looks a lot flatter, and that's because I've not really put in any of those reflective colors in there yet. What I'm doing is I'm just kind of rubbing my brush in there, and then I'm using this as a base color. All right, and you can do this with oils as well. So this is kind of what I would call my base, and it's very flat. There's no depth to that. There's, you know, when you compare it to this detail over here, it doesn't look anywhere near as refined. But what you do is you just let that dry, and then you select the colors here, like say this light blue that's reflecting the snow, for example. You simply just paint that on top of your form, and you literally just go in, you know, with the brush with that light blue, and you just tap, 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 tap. You're just kind of thinking about what those planes are doing and what they're, what direction they're facing and what they're potentially reflecting. And you do that with the whole painting, that's kind of how light and shadow works. So you're thinking more about planes, you're getting your base tone in, and then you're just painting on top of the base tone. So, I'll just quickly mix a color. Let's use that blue, and then I'll just dip my brush in a bit of white, and I'll just try and mix like a light blue color similar to what I had on the other horse. I might have to refine this when I stop recording, but that looks like a nice color. Maybe it's a bit bright for what I need, but it doesn't matter. I can tone it down, I can paint over it if I have to, but just for demonstration purposes, let's go ahead and do this. Right, so that acrylic will actually be pretty dry by now. It dries pretty fast. It doesn't have to be dry completely. And you can do this with oils as well. So again, I got my light blue, and I'm imagining that there's some planes here that are kind of pointing down and reflecting the snow. So let's put it in. And I'm not using super clean brush strokes. You can see there's some jaggies in there. That's actually good. That's what I want, because that's what's going to make it look painterly. You can see this yellow band here that I've painted. It's not painted in properly. There's some gaps of red, or gaps of yellow rather, but quite frankly, that's kind of what makes it good. It doesn't look very nice close up, but when you look at it from a distance, it looks way better. Maybe there's a bit here, like in this crevice there too. It's just, and now I can kind of go over that. And then obviously I'd have to put like a third tone on top of this, but you can kind of see how this is implying form now. It's kind of giving the illusion of form. So if we stand back, let's not look at it. Let's just, I always like to, when I walk away, I don't like to look at the painting. I like to look away from it, and then I look back. Okay, let's go forward. There, have a look at what we just painted. So it's not finished, obviously, but we've already got a form in there now. It's already taking shape. That's how quick it can be. You don't have to blend your brush strokes. You don't have to render it or over render. You just need to mix the right color and the right value, and that obviously takes a lot of practice. But that's how easy, I guess, it can be. It's not easy. It's actually pretty difficult to get it looking the way you want it, but it's just practice, right? But again, as we walk away from the image, it just takes form. You can see it, and your brain is kind of putting that image together. It's putting all those pieces together. So I'm not working too hard on this, I guess, because I know that when you look at this image, you can tell what it is. You can see what it is. Hopefully. It's not finished yet. There's still a lot of work to do on this, but hopefully when you see the finished painting, you'll know exactly what you're looking at, because that's kind of what the human brain does. It's very good at putting pieces together. And that's what a lot of the old masters used to do, especially in the 19th century. If you think John Singer Sargent or Repin, for example, they actually had a very painterly style. And when you look at their paintings and you analyze them, they're not really painting all that much detail. They're just designing shape, color, and value, and they're placing it in a way that makes it look like an image. So that's kind of what I'm going for here. I mean, I'm not going to compare myself to those guys, because that's delusional. Those guys were masters, and I'll never reach the heights that they did, but I'm taking a page out of their book, and I'm trying to get a similar effect, because it's a nice style. It looks good, and it's also more efficient too, so it's going to help me out. Anyway, I'm going to carry on with this. Have a good one, guys.